Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 18 of Talking to Unicorns. And this week, we are talking to a web designer, branding expert, and for me, most importantly, Webflow developer. Grace, welcome. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm great, thank you. Thanks for inviting me. I'm so stoked to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm very happy to have you. Can you give us like a little bit of an introduction as to who you are and what it is that you do?
Yeah, for sure. I design mainly in sort of brand identity and web design. I sort of have experience bouncing all over the show, really. And I'm contracting full time for a design agency, and that involves a lot of branding work, graphic design work, and also web design work. Unfortunately, no developing, which breaks my heart a little bit at this point because, I also have experience in building in Webflow, which is awesome. Love it.
Nice. So let's go right back to the start. How did you get into the design space?
Well, I guess just started studying at NASA University, doing a visual communications design degree. And then throughout study, I actually managed to get my hands on like bits and pieces of work everywhere. I started with a design internship, which was sort of my second year into uni. And to be honest, it wasn't much of an internship. There wasn't any really mentorship, or it was me and a friend, and we basically got thrown into this company, and they were like, "Great, redesign our logo and design a website for us." And so we were like, "Okay." And I feel like that kind of like summarizes my design career to date. It's just sort of been a like thrown in the deep end, learn as you go kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been great. And then throughout uni, I was actually a lead designer for a wee startup in Wellington. And then yeah, after uni, I moved to LA with my
Whoa.
partner, who's also a designer, and that was super interesting. We did sort of bits and pieces of freelancing, and I did contract work for about 6 months for a music label and management company called 88 Rising. Super interesting. And then some other media company work. And then, yeah. And then after that, came back at the start of this year to a COVID ridden world. And yeah, that was sort of this year was really when I started to focus more on my freelancing and how I can build myself up in that space. Yeah.
Amazing. So let me just start off by saying that you have some fantastic case studies. So I am going to link to your profile down below, but oh, like just the your sales engine branding, like the crypto, all of them are just so great. So let me just okay, because you were thrown into the deep end a lot, how did you learn? Like, how did you kind of figure this stuff out?
First of all, I just want to say shout out to your sales engine that was branded by Obvious in Wellington. They did a sick job. And then I was lucky enough to build the website while I was interning for Psychoactive Studios. Shout out, guys. Love you all. But yes, because yeah, being thrown in the deep end. Well, yes, I've been thrown in the deep end, but also, gosh, like had some killer tutors throughout university and who I just really tried to soak up as much knowledge from as I could. And then, yeah, since sort of leaving university, I've been finding, I mean, again, I did an internship this year and that taught me a lot, which was amazing. And I also just try and find amazing designers like online on Instagram and stuff like that. Sometimes I flick the messages and be like, how do you do this? You know, and it's always just kind of like trial and error and just not being afraid to fail, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And so one thing that I'd be really interested to know is how you found the transition from design school to the real world.
Oh, it was so hard. So hard. Yeah, I feel like I wasn't quite prepared for it. But not in terms of just like actually the workload, but just, yeah, the change. I mean, in design school, you learn about design, you learn the fundamentals, you learn the process, which is amazing. But then you step into a work environment, you have no idea about the politics of the workspace. You also go from a space like uni where you are constantly being told how well you're doing or how bad you're doing, right? You're getting a grade, you're getting a feedback constantly. So I found it quite disorientating moving into the real world where no one's constantly telling you that, like, hey, you're doing amazing, or hey, you could do better here, like you've really just got to sink or swim. So that was hard, to be honest, but I feel like I definitely have it sorted now, but it took a while.
Mm-hmm. And so what do you think are the kind of things that you learned on the job that were like something that you'd tell a university student or someone in design school now to like potentially prepare for?
Very good question. I think it is just not being afraid to ask questions in the workforce, like ask as many as you can, because a lot of the time people are so busy, they'll forget to sort of give you the amount of training that you want, if that makes sense. So ask for it, when you start a job and you've got to send concepts to your boss, maybe before you start, just ask, okay, what's the standard of presentation here? How would you like me to set up my files or present my concepts? Like real simple stuff, just ask heaps of questions and it'll just help with the process.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And so after design school, you pretty much started working for a design agency, correct?
After design school, I moved to LA.
Yes.
And actually, I started working for a cannabis company in LA doing graphic design work, which was really interesting. But it did not work out well. Like, I ended up leaving after 2 weeks, after ending up in tears, and it was just a bit of a shit show. And that's really where I learned more of like ask questions, make sure that you and your employer have an understanding of what the expectations are.
Okay.
And then after that, I then moved on and worked as a designer for the music label in LA.
Nice. And so how do you find that job?
I actually found that job specifically. My boyfriend and I moved in with a guy in LA, and he had a friend who's a lead designer at this company, and he literally put up an Instagram story, said, looking for a designer, need to start in 2 days. And they, linked me up there. I sent my details and they're like, yep, on board. And the next thing I know, I was just like in Hollywood, like in this amazing office, like, how did this happen? But yeah, just classic.
That's so awesome.
Really.
So one thing that a lot of people who come out of design school and sign up to the Unicorn Factory always ask me is like, what is the kind of work that I'm like, what are the kind of case studies or projects that I'm supposed to use to like show people what I can do? What did you do?
I guess for me, it was just choosing the ones that I really loved and the ones that I think best reflected the skills I want to be doing when I'm freelancing, if that makes sense. So uploading, a website-based project because I want to get web work in the freelance world, or uploading my breast branding projects. And it's just like, the projects that are a really good flex on your favorite skills, I guess.
And did you use your portfolio that you created at school, or did you work on own projects?
I think I actually can't remember what's on my Unicorn Factory. I think it's maybe, well, when I came out of university, obviously my portfolio was filled with university work, and there's still some university project work on my portfolio now, even though I'm a few years out, because some of them are my favorite projects still. And so from memory, in my Unicorn Factory, there is, I think, one project that's university one, and the rest are client work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. So now you are in the branding space, web design space, and you do Webflow work. So if you had to pick one of the three, what is like the area that you enjoy most?
I can't answer that. I love all three of them. And
Yeah.
that's like, I feel like I'm always in a battle of not wanting to let one of them go.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, for me, web design and Webflow goes hand in hand. At the moment, I'm just designing, I'm not developing, and it kills me a bit inside to pass my designs off to a developer. Not because I don't think they're going to do an amazing job, but because I'm just like, oh, I can just imagine how I would build this in Webflow. It would be so fun. It would be so quick and so rewarding.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love them all.
Yeah. Oh, cool. And so, I wanted to have, there are a few directions that I want to go with this, but let's have a chat about your whole experience with Webflow, because in case people don't know, the Unicorn Factory is built in Webflow and it's a fantastic tool. And so how did you discover it?
I discovered it at university actually. Because part of my honors project involved a website. And so I did try to build the entire website for my final year project. And so I jumped onto Webflow and I was like, right, I've got a week and a half to do this. Let's go. That was so ambitious and I did not finish it at all. But I mean, that was fine because the project had like, I shot 3 interview videos. I like commissioned articles. Like it was way too big. I was in over my head. But that's when I started playing around with it. And then after that project, I was like, okay, I still want to crack this. So I think I just started building my personal portfolio on it. And that's how I started to like learn the skills really.
Nice. That's the best way to start, is just by building your portfolio with it. And so have you done client work or built any client projects in Webflow?
Yes, yeah, I have. The latest one I did was your sales engine. And that was really great. It's just so, I mean, Webflow has quite a high learning curve, but it's so rewarding once you start to get it and understand it. And I've also found that because I now have skills in Webflow and I understand how that works, even when I'm just designing websites and then communicating to developers, our communication is now stronger because I understand more of how the coding and the structure works because I've learned how to use Webflow.
Yep. So what do you use to design your websites?
At the moment, I'm using Figma. And so even
Nice.
when I am creating a Webflow site, I still design in Figma first before
Nice.
diving into the development.
That's what I was going to ask you about, because I'm one of those crazy people that just designs in Webflow and very bad. It takes me a million years and then I need to go and find someone like Nikolai who then goes and fixes all the messy stuff that I made. But
Oh, gosh.
one question I had is like, just knowing how to use Figma, has that helped you learn Webflow in any way, or have they just been really separate from each other?
That's a really good question. If anything, I think learning how to use Webflow has better informed how I use Figma, if that makes sense. Like being really diligent about setting consistent padding between elements and things like that. And so I mean, I guess like Figma would help a little bit, but the fact that you can really drag and drop and you have the freedom in Figma, moving from Figma to Webflow would still be quite difficult. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, so now you are back working for an agency, but you also freelance part-time.
Yes.
How's that been going for you?
It's been great. Well, it's been interesting. I've been really enjoying it. I'm currently only have one freelance client at the moment, both of them, and I love them. It's just such a fun project. I'm really, really enjoying it. I was finding though, because I'm doing 40 hours for the design company I work for, and there was one point that I had like 3 clients on the go on the side as well, and to be honest, it was just getting too much. Like I like to imagine that I'm the kind of person that can work, till 11 o'clock or midnight every single night, smash through it, but I really can't. Like if I burn the candle at both ends, it's just a disaster for me. So it's been a really interesting process working out, yeah, what is doable and achievable and what's not going to drive me up the wall.
Mm-hmm. So has the conclusion been to like stick with one client for now, and yeah.
Yeah, I think from what I've learned so far, it's judging the size of the projects. Like you could definitely have two projects on the go if they're just sort of, I don't know, if it's like designing a document for one person and then designing social assets for another. It's sort of nothing too big, and you can handle both of them. But I mean, the project I'm working on now for this client is a whole brand identity project. So yeah, I mean, designing their brand identity and then designing all of their assets, and then hopefully down the line that'll mean as well website design and build too. So yeah.
Nice. And so before you start working with a client like that on the side, do you have any conversations with your current employer and the client about the fact that you have a full-time job or that you are helping people on the side with like branding projects?
Mm. Good question.
I
I
can cut this
haven't.
part out.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, I don't know what I'm allowed to say here. I haven't actually like discussed with my full-time employer that I am doing freelance projects, but I think because the fact that I never let them conflict with one another,
Mhm.
that it's okay. I don't really need to,
Mhm.
and 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 with the clients, yeah, I mean, I definitely just try and make a point of like being transparent and letting them know what my bandwidth is. So yeah, letting them know that I am doing 30 or 40 hours um, a week with someone else. And so yeah, recently I've had to say no to a lot of freelance clients, which kind of kills me. But yeah, you're just going to be transparent, I guess.
Cool. And so, in terms of what the future holds for you, do you feel like you are more someone who prefers the agency lifestyle, or would you like to at some stage go down the route of self-employment?
I think I love them both, and I definitely see myself going down the route of self-employment full time at some point. Although I do love the sort of agency studio environment where there are people around, the people to bounce ideas off. And so, to be honest, I think if and when I do go freelance full time, I'd look to work in like a shared space or rent a space out with a few other creatives because yeah, I get a bit lonely in a room by myself for too long.
Hmm. So, because there was a period where you were just freelancing, correct?
Yeah. Hmm.
And did you find that aspect of freelancing challenging, or?
Um, I guess the only challenging part of it is I was lucky enough that when I was doing it full time, I was living rent free.
Mhm.
Um, So yeah, and it was actually once I moved and started paying rent that it was lucky enough that I got the full time work. So yeah, the only challenge is really trying to line up enough clients so that you can meet their expectations and do a good job, but also be able to survive off a steady income. Really.
Hmm. And did you pick up any like strategies or things that worked for you when it came to finding clients?
I mean, honestly, like Unicorn Factory was such a big help. And I just found the more active I was on it, the more I was, yeah, posting case studies and things like that. That really helped. Also, just like making improvements in the SEO of my portfolio. I've found that is like I've now had more people just contact me straight through there. Um, Also, I was using just the free HubSpot for a little while too, just to like manage my leads and set reminders to like get back in contact with clients and things like that. Yeah.
Nice. Well, for anyone at design school right now thinking about, what the future could hold, what kind of little tips and tricks would you, or recommendations would you have for anyone wanting to get into the freelancing world?
I reckon start on your portfolio right now. Even if you feel like you haven't got the best case studies to put on there yet, you've got summers coming up. You can start designing a few projects, during then. And also, a portfolio always takes longer than you think. So just start now and you'll thank yourself later. Also, yeah, just get in contact with people, ask questions, talk to some of the freelancers that or are in your area. Join Unicorn Factory. Honestly, it's so good. And yeah, just put yourself out there.
Nice. And besides being on the Unicorn Factory, do you have any other online portfolios that you use?
I've actually joined a few Facebook groups, which have been good. There's some called like freelancing females and women in web design, and I've sort of just like joined a few of those, and they've been great. And people are sharing jobs or asking for advice and sharing tips and things like that. People are constantly posting like, oh, how do I price my first freelance job? Or so yeah, just having a Google and a search to find other online communities really helps too.
And so just on a finishing note, how did you price your first freelance job?
Oh, that's a good question. I can't even think my first one. Pretty poorly, I imagine. I think I'm still pricing my freelance jobs pretty poorly. But I'm finding, because I'm working full time, I'm just sort of choosing the ones that I'm most excited about. And half the time, if I'm really excited about it, I'm like not too concerned about money, which is really silly. But yeah, what I do is I kind of estimate how long I think it's going to take me, hours wise, and then like sort of first is freelance job. I was like pricing at like $40 an hour, or like 50 or whatever. So yeah, it's just estimating how many hours you think it's going to take, and then putting an hourly rate on that, and then sending your client an estimate, not a quote, and saying, this is subject to change. And maybe you want to say, this estimate involves 2 revisions at this point, this point, this point. Any extra, revisions or design time outside of that incurs more cost at, I don't know, $60 an hour or something.
Cool. That's a great tip, by the way. Always assume that they're going to want to see changes.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
Grace, how can we find out more about you?
Ooh, more about me. This feels so bizarre. You can check me out on Instagram at gracepotter.nz. Find my Unicorn Factory profile, or have a little squiz at my website at gracepotter.nz. But yeah, flick me a message and say hi. Let's connect.
Awesome. Well, on that note, I'll wrap it up. Thank you so much for your time, Grace. It was great fun talking to you. And for everyone else, that was episode 18 of Talking to Unicorns. I've already recorded episode 19, which makes no sense, but I did. So that one will be following next week. So be sure to be subscribed to the channel. Other than that, have a fantastic rest of the day. Goodbye.
Ooh, thanks, Connor.